to start up too once I say that. All right, and we are live. And this is another episode of What the Flock podcast. I'm Heather, and today we have with me Sean, as always.
Hey guys.
And today we have a special guest, Rydell with Tampa Lovebirds.
Hello, everybody.
And today's topic, we're going to be talking about lovebirds. And we're just going to get the lowdown pretty much. So can you give us a brief description of your company, Rydell?
Yes, TampaLovebirds.com is a website that is an online pet store that ships birds all over the United States, except only two states, Puerto Rico and Hawaii. So except Puerto Rico and Hawaii, anybody can go in the website, order their favorite birds that is listed there, and it gets shipped directly to their home.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great. And go ahead, Sean.
Rydell, one question I wanted to ask you was, why lovebirds? Out of all different species of birds, why was lovebirds the species you wanted to work with?
Okay, I mean, uh, when I started with the lovebird breeding, it was in 2006. And it was a little hobby that my father had, and I would used to like help him change the water, put some food, and I would hear all these conversations from all these other breeders. Like I was always hanging out with my father all the time, and all they talked about was lovebirds. All they did was lovebirds. So I heard conversations over and over again how to get them to be a pair, uh, food to feed them, how to get babies, how to maximize the amount of babies, how to, get more clutches out of your pair and all that. So, it was something, it started going in my head and little by little, and I started developing a passion for it. And at the end of the day, it's like the doctor. You have all these specialties in the field of medicine. Like you have the heart doctor, the lungs, the knees, and then you have one doctor that's like the general doctor, but then you have one that knows a little bit about everything, but he focuses one thing, and that's what really makes the money. It's the same thing with the birds. You can breed 100 different type of birds. You can sell 100 different type of birds, but it's very important to be, to know more about one, because it's like when you become specialty on one type of bird, then that's when you really get known. You don't have to know about everything. You just gotta know a lot about one thing, and that will get you far. And that's why I focus on the lover, because I had so much knowledge unconsciously. Like it got in my head without me even trying, because I heard these conversations over and over and over again. And then when I started talking to my friends about it, they were like, "Man, you know a lot about this bird." And I'm like, "Well, what I know is what I hear from the older people, So that's how evolved. That's how everything started. That's why I picked lovebirds, and I haven't changed. Like I have all the different type of birds, but my main bird is the lovebird.
So
Okay,
basically, it
and
was
you
like,
said did you say your dad was a breeder?
Oh,
So
no,
like
no,
you,
no, no.
so you're a second
Yes,
generation breeder?
yes. He's still a breeder, and that's how everything started. I used to, when I was younger, I don't know how old I was in 2006. Maybe I was like, I don't know, 16 or 15. He will breed and have like 10, 15 baby birds, and he would say, "Hey, listen, sell these." So then I would grab those birds and sell them off Craigslist, post them in Hoobly, Oodly, all these websites that I used to sell birds. And that's, and I would do it for him, not for myself. It was certain business. I was just doing it for him so he could make some extra money. And then he had like only like 20 pairs back then. And then little by little we started, I started seeing that I developed a rhythm, selling birds. It became like a hobby to me too. And then I got good at selling. I was collecting money off, the internet from people that didn't even know who I was. There was no website back then, and I had people mailing me checks to my house. And I was like, okay, so I should focus a little bit more on this. And then, so pretty much, yes, that's how my father was the breeder back then. Then I joined him, and that's when we created. Uh, I put the computer side because I knew about computers. He didn't. I knew English. He didn't speak English. So I complemented with everything that he was missing, and about the technology now, I got him like to where he had to be to the point that he since 2012 he doesn't work anymore. He's
Mhm.
like that's it. He's retired.
Wow, that's pretty
Yeah.
awesome.
Yep.
And he's only with Lovebirds. And I remember in 2008, I called a guy that had a pet store here in Tampa, and we used to sell him some of our baby birds. And he said, "What are you trying to do?" And I said, "Well, I want to open a pet store." And he said, "Well, you need to have all these contacts to sell all these birds. You don't know anybody." And I'm like, "Listen, all I'm gonna sell is Lovebirds." And he
Mhm.
said, "What? You're gonna open a store for only sell Lovebirds?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, you're gonna starve. You're not gonna make enough money selling only that. You need to sell everything." And I'm like, "Okay, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you for the advice. I'm selling Lovebirds only." And now, like, I mean, 2 years later, the store went out of business because that's when the bad time on 2009. That's when, like, 2009, 2010. That's when everything became really bad here in Florida. I mean, in the whole United States.
Mhm.
Yeah, we
Uh,
were in a recession during that
the
time.
recession, yeah, and he went out of business. Everybody went out of business, and I was selling only online, so I didn't have the overhead that they had,
Mhm.
so I could afford to sell less. And then I was selling all over the United States. It's the difference from when they heard I'm gonna sell only Lovebirds, they probably thought that I was talking about in Tampa. Yeah, if I'm gonna sell only one type of bird in one city, maybe I'm not gonna do. It's not gonna grow that much. But if I'm selling one type of bird to every state, it's kind of different. There's always somebody out there that wants one.
Yeah, of course.
So that's pretty much
All right.
All right,
So,
go ahead,
what is your
Sean.
favorite mutation of Lovebird to work with?
my favorite mutation. All these times since we started in 2006, all the way until now, we focus on the fishers. We have, and not really the fishers. I can call it the iron because we have black mass, we have black cheeks, we have the fishers. So that's what we've been focusing on. But 2 years ago, we started breeding peach face because I had a lot of people emailing me about peach face. And I'm gonna tell you something. I love them all. Nah, I don't have one in specific. It's like I don't have a favorite color
Right, yeah.
because I have a favorite color for one thing, but it would not be my favorite color for other things.
Mhm.
So that's I'm the type of people that don't have a favorite anything. I like everything. So in the lovebirds, it depends. If you want it for a pet, then you know sometimes the peach face stays calm, stay tame for longer. And if you want a good mutation like the high end $2,000 bird, everything like that, it's gonna be on the fisher. You know,
Mhm.
so it doesn't mean that fishers are not good for pets. That doesn't mean that. It's just they're more on the wild side. You have to put more time into them to keep them tame, but you can definitely have them as pet because I sell them as pet all the time. It's like I don't want people confused. Like I wrote an article saying why female lovebirds are aggressive. Now nobody wants to buy a female. I'm like, no, 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 no. I don't mean that like that. You can buy females. It's just that they get hormonal sometime of the year. They're gonna get hormonal, just like women get hormonal in some days of the month. It's
Yeah.
not that it's gonna be a bad fit. It's just that you're gonna know how to work what you have. But yeah, I don't have a favorite type, but definitely I will go with the fishers. But that doesn't mean I wouldn't do peach faces either.
Right,
But
yeah. I
I mean, when you say mutation, I'm gonna tell you. Okay, I'm gonna tell you. The fisher, the ones that have always caught my attention, that everybody said those are the cheap ones. If I'll say to answer the question and not leave it like that, if I'll say for me to have a favorite one, I would say the fisher that's green with the yellow neck, orange head, and the blue on the wings, like the regular traditional Fisher pastel. That bird has always caught my attention. I even have one. Actually, it's a part blue pastel in my logo. That's the one that I have in my logo. That's the you know I will pick that if they're gonna let me pick one for me as a pet. I will pick a bird like that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that is a nice mutation. Um, so on to another question for you. So what are the pros and cons that you have found while breeding lovebirds?
Okay, the downsides about breeding lovebirds is that you cannot tell who's woman and male, who's female and male from just looking at them. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Right. Yeah. Right.
parakeets you can tell by looking at them. Uh, Cockatiels sometimes you can tell by looking at them. Um, finches you can tell by looking at them. Now lovebirds is really confusing. Like I talk to experienced breeders and they say, listen, there's different methods. Bone testing by the pelvic bones. You can use a key hanging in between the bones, depending if it goes in circle, like all these myths. Then you can use at the end of the day, you have to do a DNA test, or you have to go the freeway. That is what we do here since we have so many. We throw a big fly aviary, like a colony breeding. We put a lot of boxes. We throw a bunch of birds in there, and then we let them pick each other up. And that's how we know it's male and female. But it's the only way, and that's the downside. The good thing about the lovebird is once they mate, once they become a partner, you get babies every 3 months at
Yeah,
least.
they are vigorous maters. I know that they're like rabbits almost.
And it don't matter how many you have. I mean, as a business point of view, it doesn't matter how many I have. I sell them all. Like all the birds, sometimes I hold into them for a little while a customer pops. When it comes with lovebirds, whatever quantity I have, it sells in the same month. There's no. So people love lovebirds because maybe the size is not that big, it's not that small. It has a lot of different color variation to pick from. It's not like cockatoos, you only have certain patterns of colors to pick. Lovebirds, you have like thousands of different colors, and it's awesome. So
Yeah,
that's the
yeah,
the
exactly.
pros and the cons, in my
So,
opinion.
so Rydell, I wanted to ask a question that has to do with the answer that you just gave. Um, so what do you think about colony breeding? Do you think that it's better off colony breeding the lovebirds, or it's better off breeding them singularly?
There, uh, there is a secret
Okay,
and I'm gonna tell you the secret now
sure.
that a lot of breeders don't want people to know.
Okay.
And it's this: when you colony breed adult birds that you buy somewhere else, you're gonna end up with a lot of headaches. A lot of headaches because these birds don't know each other. And then the other mistake that people do is that they don't label. I mean, if you think you have 10 females, you need to have at least 15 nest boxes, at least 15. And the trick is to have them all in the same level. Never put one more higher than the other because they're gonna fight for the high one. Not they don't want the low one. They want the one that's higher. So if you don't want any issues, you need to have them all in the same level.
Hmm.
Now they still gonna go. One male's gonna go inside the other one. This female's gonna go inside the other one because they do that in colony breeding when they don't know each other. The only way that colony breeding is successful is if you buy a bunch of baby birds and you put them together in that colony and you let them develop into adults and start the mating process in the same colony, knowing each other. You're not gonna fight. Nobody's gonna fight there. But if you buy a bunch of birds from different sources and you throw them all in a colony, you're gonna have dead birds. And then when the babies come out of the boxes, the other adult ones are gonna come and pick on them and kill them, and it's gonna be a disaster. You gotta be all the time watching, so this bird doesn't kill the other babies, and it's a pain in the butt. The
Hmm.
only way that colony breeding works if you put them all together from 3 4 months old. You put them all together when they're a year old, that they start pairing up and mating. That's their habitat. That's like it's like I don't know how to explain it. they have to be from baby together in the colony in order for the colony to work. And once they start breeding, you're gonna get a bunch of babies. But you need to do it like that. If you try to colony breed adults, you're gonna get a lot of headache with problems and dead birds. The only thing that we use the colony is to make pairs. Once what we do is that we put 50 birds in one fly cage in a big aviary with 60, 70 boxes. Then we come at night and with flashlights light up everybody. Then we plug the boxes with whatever we have available that we can plug it in. We use cloth for that, and then we start looking inside the boxes. Whoever was sleeping in the box, that's a pair. You guarantee that's a pair. You can take it out and put it in an individual cage, and that's where the money is at individually because nobody's bothering them. They're doing their thing. They have their privacy, and it's just one clutch after the other, one after the other. But that's the process that you got to do it, or else the colony is not going to be that good. Colony is really good for decoration purpose, but to make breeding, to make babies, separated is better.
Yeah,
Okay.
that actually makes a lot of sense. All right, and we have one more question for you. If you could give the new generation of aviculturists one piece of advice, what would that be?
Uh, in one piece of advice in what field, like in business
Like,
wise, breeding wise.
say they're coming into Lovebirds. Like, if you could just tell them one thing you wish you knew when you first started, what would that be? Business or breeding wise, either one.
In patience, if they really want to breed, they need patience and passion. They need to like it. If they don't like it, they're gonna get tired after seeing week after week, no eggs, no babies. They get tired and they quit. If that happens, it's because they didn't really like it. Real breeders, they enjoy just watching their birds, even if they're just sitting there, they enjoy it. So they need patience and passion. The two pieces, patience and passion. If you don't have that, you're not gonna go far.
And that could be said in like any aspect of aviculture, and that's really good advice,
And
actually. Yeah.
any no man, if you start with the bigger birds, you need more patience. You need MPP,
Yeah.
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
patience and passion.
Exactly so.
I've seen a lot of people that they went into our aviary. They saw how many pairs they ask us, business people, with a lot of money, and they say, "Cause how many birds do you have in there?" We said, "Well, we have around 300 pairs in here." And how many times a year do they lay eggs? Well, they lay eggs. Let's say roughly one another, sometimes five, other three. Let's say 3 times a year. And how many babies do they give? I'll say three. Some do five, others do two or one. Let's do the middle three. Oh, so you get like 4,000 babies. And how much you sell them for? $100. So we're talking about $400,000. Oh my gosh, I gotta start this business. They go, they buy $20,000 of birds. They buy cages. They spend all this money, and then they're sitting next month looking at the paperwork saying, "All right, what's my return?" Well, you're not gonna get any return. You need a lot of months for the birds to actually make paired up. You need time for patience. You need to dedicate time washing out the nest, changing the nesting material every time they have a clutch. You need to make sure they're eating the right food. If they have babies, they eat one diet. If they don't have babies, they have a different diet. And if you don't have time to go to do all this, you're not going to be successful. So you cannot look at it. Yes, you can make tons of money in this business, but you cannot do it from the money point of view, or your aviary is going to be a disaster. I mean, you got to change the water, put the food, no matter what day it is. And if you ham feeding, I don't even want to talk about that. Ham feeding means you're working 24/7 every day. You know,
Yeah.
there's no
I
days
completely
off. There's no
understand.
vacation. Yeah, and Sean can know. Sean knows what we talked about that
Yeah.
yesterday.
One more thing, one more question before you get off.
Oh, you can ask any question you want.
Yeah.
I'm not
So
in a rush.
this is a simple question, and then I have one last question for you. What is the lifespan of the lovebirds, and at what age do lovebirds start breeding?
Okay. What I'm gonna tell you can go against a lot of things that you read on the internet, okay? Because a lot of the things that I say go against a lot of the things in the internet, and that's why I get so much hate comments sometimes.
Sure.
But it's what I've seen with my eyes, not what I have read, because I have a hard time reading. So not what I read is what I have seen and heard and everything.
Sure.
Um, the lovebird can start mating as soon as 7 to 8 months if it's male. Males at 8 months old, they start humping the female. So the females, same thing. At 8 months old, 7, 8 months old, sometimes 9 months old, they're already laying eggs. Now it's not good for that first when they lay eggs so soon to let them do it. It's better to remove those eggs and don't let them do that until next month or something, to so their body can be more ready for that.
Hmm.
Um, because the birds, the humans, and the trees are the same. When you plant a tree, and let's say it's supposed to give fruit at 5 years, and at 3 years it's giving you fruit, 3.5 years already giving you fruit. What you're supposed to do is cut those fruits off. Don't let it develop the fruit to be right, because you're forcing the tree too soon. That's not good. It's gonna make the tree suffer down the line more. So if you want to have a healthy tree, you need to cut those fruits off. And with the lovebird, same thing. If you see that 7 months old, 8 months old is laying eggs, remove the eggs and give it remove the next box or something, and let their bodies be more mature before they start going through all that process. But then that's the breeding. The age wise, I have lovebirds right now breeding that they're around 13, 14 years old, and they're still breeding.
Wow.
Wow.
Now they
Wow.
don't breed as much as the young ones. The young ones are like one clutch after the other. These guys are just, they're doing, but they're still breeding. They're still having one baby, two babies every 3, 4 months. They're still having their babies, so we still keep them. And that's another thing that I say to my customers when they want to breed and they're asking for adult birds. I say, listen, I'm gonna be as transparent as I can be with somebody. If you want to breed, don't buy adults, buy young ones, at least a year old, 2 years old max. That's it. Because if you buy anything that's uh, 14 years old, that's not good for breeding. That's only good for like to have as a pet, not as a breeding, because that bird is tired, and it's not fair for the bird to explode the bird until the last day of his life.
Oh yeah, that's really ethical. All the things you
And that's
mentioned there. That's a good breeding practice, and in my opinion, that's good breeding
Yeah.
practice.
And
I,
and and the lifespan, 16 years, 17 years. I had a customer that she told me that her lovebird was with her for 19 years. So
wow.
Wow.
I don't know if she was lying to me. She didn't have to lie to me. I mean, why would she? And she told me that. So I'm like, I believe you, because if I have them breeding for so long, you know, why, if you only have one as a pet, it could last longer because their bodies are not, so wear it out as wear and tear, like
Yeah.
a bird.
I
Yeah.
mean, so long that you have them on a good diet and you have them in a big enough cage so they can fly around, before breeding season, they have the strength and the health ready
Yep,
to
with
breed.
the
I mean, I
diet.
don't think it's going to matter.
Yep, with the diet. That's why we use. I mean, pellets are super expensive, and we don't go with pellet as a business point of view because it's not good for the pocket.
Hmm.
But we gotta talk about the birds. So what we do is that we do a mix of pellets and seeds,
Hmm.
and that's what
Okay.
we feed. Because if you feed them only seed, sunflower, seeds, their livers are gonna become bad. They're not getting the enough exercise. So why should you feed them so much fatty stuff? So that's
Hmm.
why we combine in pellets and seeds, and it has helped. And I think we can see that it works on all the years that we have them. For so many years, it means it's working. A bird in a bad diet is not gonna go over 10 years old. It's gonna
Yep.
die. It's, you
100%.
know.
But all right, one last question before we let you go, and that question is something that had to do with. Remember, we were on the phone yesterday, and you was telling me about the nest box and the bedding that you use for your birds, or the bedding that you recommend, and that had to do with the pine needles for the bedding?
Yep.
So, tell me about it. Like, how did you find out about this? Like, are you the one that like came upon this idea, or why is this
No,
beneficial?
I wasn't. With the crew that I used to hang out with, a
Sure.
bunch of 60-year-old guys, my father's friends, and my father, that's what they use. And I asked them one time, why? Because we will walk to the park every Sunday and scrape this thing from the ground. Like they will see me doing that. Some of my friends and they ask, "Man, why are you cleaning the park? That's a public place. What are you doing there?" And they
Yeah.
see me with these bags, like 10 bags, like picking all that up. Like, are you working cleaning the park? I'm like, no, it's for my birds. So, and I asked my father one time, I said, listen, why are we using this? Why are we going to the park and picking this up when we can go to the a feed place and buy, pine shavings or wood shavings or whatever? And he said, well, listen, wood shaving is no good. Wood shaving can suffocate the birds because it has small particles. So avoid wood shaving. Pine shavings is good. They're large chunks, but it makes a disgusting block inside the box. After certain time, you gotta be like, it gets wet, it gets humid, it never dries off. Ants, roaches, spiders, all these things, they go in there and they make their babies, and then it's disgusting, and you gotta be on top of that all the time. And the cockatiel, if you have cockatiels on that, it's disgusting. So no. So then he said the most thing that it's dry, it doesn't go humid like that or anything, is the pine needles. And he has, my father told me this, I don't know where he got it from, but he's the one that talked to me, and then I looked it up and it's for real. It has a wax, a natural wax that it repels the insects. So
Oh
when
wow.
you use the pine needles, you not only supplying them things that they love pine needles, and the difference between pine needles and wood shavings or pine shavings is that you get to see when they're actually making the nest, because the pine needles, when they start using it, they start breaking it. So when you put it inside the box, they're really long and bushy. And when they start working on it, you're gonna see that it starts turning into little pieces. They start molding it, so it looks completely different from where you put it in. So you actually can tell who's working in the nest and who's not. You see? So
Right.
that's
Yeah.
that's a plus. That's a plus side on using that. Second is that you avoid a lot of insects because they don't like it. Like this sticky stuff that it has, the resin. I don't know how you call it. Resina, we call it in Spanish. I don't know how it's called in English. It's like a wax that is really sticky.
It's not
And
toxic to birds.
no, it's not. It's
Okay.
not. Mm-mm.
Okay.
And I mean, maybe for us if we eat it, but not for the birds. And
Yeah.
then the plus that I recommend, now that we're talking about that, for everybody that's listening, there's a powder that they sell it at Home Depot and Lowe's. It's called Seven. It's red with yellow, and I have it in an article in my website. It's one of the first articles that I wrote. Avoid. It's called "Keep the Ants Away from the Next Box." You put that powder in the box, then you put your bedding, because that powder is meant for tomatoes and vegetables, so you can actually eat it and it will not harm you. It's not toxic, and it repels the insects. So whatever you use, if you want to use the pine needles, maybe you don't have pine needles in your area and you got to go with pine shavings. Always go with pine shavings. It's a lot better than wood shaving. Regular wood shaving is cheap, but it's not good. It's horrible. So you always put the 7 powder in the box, because it's going to help you take all these animals away from your babies. The last thing you want is a bunch of ants biting your little baby birds in the eyes and all that.
Yeah. And the pine needle thing is very innovative. I've never heard of that before.
Yeah,
So.
same here. I've never heard of
And
that before.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
but
it maybe nobody does it, and we do it here in Tampa because we have so much pines that it's like we have them all over the place. It's like I cut like 18 pines here in the new farm that we have, because we have so many that we don't do anything with so many there. But maybe it's a good tip for people that live up north and they want to try it. They can. I tell it to every customer, and they ask me. I tell them I use pine needles, pine needles, pine needles. If not, go with pine shaving, but always stick to pine. Don't go with the regular wood like the hamster bedding or anything like that. It's not good. And then there's a last one that I don't even know what it's called. It's kind of like little rocks that people use for cats, for the cat litter.
I think you're talking about diatomaceous earth. That's what I use myself, and I can
Yeah,
vouch for it. It works very well. It helps against
it's,
mites and
it's
many
that's
other.
awesome. Yep,
Yeah,
and it stays dry. It doesn't
exactly.
go so it's really awesome. And if somebody has the money to afford that, they can buy that. I mean, when you have only 10 pairs, you can buy anything. You can afford anything. But when you're talking about people that have 50, 60, 100 pairs, you got to start looking at what you're using, or your money is going to be like, boom, 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 gone, you know?
Yeah. Yep, I can
Oh yeah.
definitely agree with you on that.
Yeah. So, yep,
All
that's
right.
that's pretty much it.
So that is we're about out of time. I want to give a big thank you to Rydell for telling us all about his birds and his business, and for all the listeners listening. Please check out TampaLovebirds.com and see all his birds. They're awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show with us.
Thank you for having me on your show, guys. You guys are doing a great job.
Thank
All
you.
right, and that's it. See you next week, everyone.